So hi all students. So hi all students. So today's class and discussions will be on French Revolution. So is the audio fine for everyone? So I presume my audio is fine for everyone. So today's class and discussions will be on French Revolution. So is the audio fine for everyone? So I presume my audio is fine for everyone. So till yesterday we were discussing about the economics classes, and yesterday's sessions were more about demand and supply. And today we are going to start off with world history. And the first portion that we are going to study is about French Revolution. So hi Karthik, hi Tulasi, hi Geetanjali. So today's session we will be discussing about the French Revolution, the rise and revolution, all about it. And today we are yes, students are little louder. So okay, is this fine? Is the audio fine now? Hi Karthik, hi Tulasi, hi Geetanjali. So today's session we will be discussing about the French Revolution, the rise and revolution, all about it. And so yes, students are little louder. So okay, 1 second. Okay, is the audio fine now? Hi Karthik, hi Tulasi, hi Geetanjali. So I didn't mute the site. That's a problem. Okay, now it's fine. Now is the audio fine for everyone? Now is it fine? Okay. So earlier I didn't mute the other videos. That's a problem. My live session was automatically being played in the computer, and I forgot to mute the tabs. So that was a problem. Echo. Still the echo is there. Good evening. Good evening. So I think there's no problem right now. It's muted, so that's fine. Here is also muted, so I think that will also be fine. So is it fine now? For now, the audio is fine, no resonance, no echo. Okay. So I think we should start off with the class already. So today we will be discussing about world history, and I thought we'll start off with the most interesting chapter, that is French Revolution. One thing different from your world history and our Indian history is that Indian history are more or less chronologically, that is after one after the other. But in the world history, there are lots of, because it's we are not just studying about just one nation. Lots of nations are involved, and lots of problems and other issues related to it. So is the voice still echoing now? I'm sorry. I presume there's no echo right now. No echo, right? Okay. So, like I said, it's totally impossible for us to cover all the worlds and the histories of France, of of Italy and German and Russia. So we have to be more selective. That is what is more important to your civil services. So study only those. Yeah, all clear now. Okay, fine. So study what is more important. So we are gonna go topic by topic and not like one after the other. Like in India modern history, we all know that what happened in 1913 and what happened after 1914. So it's like chronological order. But over here we'll be studying one place. For example, today will be learning about France. So one chunk as a whole, and the next day we'll be learning about unification of Italy, and probably the next day later on we'll be studying about the yes. Next day we'll be studying about the industrial revolutions of Britain. So these are interconnected, sure enough, but they are not following the timeline basis. So today we'll be studying about French Revolution, and the reason French Revolution is being taken up for study is that this is said to be the first revolution ever of all the mankind. That is reason is that we had, for example, here in India. Can you say which is the first revolution that we had? The first revolution is the 1857 Sepoy Mutiny. Why it's called a revolt and not a revolution? Reason is that Sepoy Mutiny, it should have been a revolution. That is, revolution should have a output or a result. But what happened over here? It was overpowered by the British. That is, we these freedom strugglers and all these sepoys and all these mutineers, they were controlled and they were succumbed into the British power. So for those reasons, it wasn't a successful, and that's the reason why it wasn't a revolution but a revolt. But here, what happened is that these French people, the common citizens, these normal people, they went against the nation, they went against the government, they went against the policies, and Pakkai Odisha. I'm sorry, I don't understand what that is. So can you be more clear? I don't understand. Okay, so they went against their government, they went against their monarchical system, and they have a result. And they brought freedom for themselves. So that is the reason why this becomes a revolution. And when one person start doing something out of the ordinary, the other people will also start following them. So because French Revolution happened, I think even India's freedom struggle is also highly inspired by these, revolution by these French people. So we'll start off. What are the reasons that led to these, revolt, and why these people, the common people, the peasants, and everyone, sort of brought an uprisal against the government? The first one is political cause. Monarchy ruled according to divine right. That is, during those phases, it was actually, we cannot say that it was just a monarchical person. He considers himself to be as a god sent. That is, a middleman between the god and the common man. So, and they believe themselves to be out of this world. Okay, for example, the reasons that automatically led to the French Revolution is Louis XVI. Yeah, Pakka Revolution. Okay. Yeah. Okay, fine. Yeah. So here, the utmost reason why we were in this revolution is because of Louis 16. Okay, 16th one. Uh, presume we are, yeah, this is Louis 16. So Louis 16 is actually not a very capable king, but he is not the only one who is responsible for it. He had two other kings before him. That is Louis 15 and Louis 14. Okay, even those period, they weren't, looking after their administration policies and political policies very well. So what happened when the father is not very good? We expect the son to be at least much better than the father, and try to do all the damage control. But instead, what happened is that son turned out to be even worse than that, and his son, that is the grandchild, turned out to be even more worse than that. That's a problem. What happened over here? Louis 16. Okay, Louis 16 turned out to be a total waste of a king, and he proved himself to be such a bad example to be a king. And that is the reason why, which led to the Great Revolt. And these people, they actually felt that these are the representatives of God. See, it's written here that believe that king was the God's representative on earth, thus they could do no wrong. And whatever, that is, they had their own belief that I am God, I am the representative of God. So whatever I am doing is right. Even if for all the selfish deeds, it is the right thing for me to do. King selected ministers on the basis of birth and favoritism. Royal government was corrupt and inefficient. Censorship of speech and press people imprisoned without charge, bail, or trial, and people denied a voice in government. If you could say a dictatorial form and dictatorial and a loose form of government, that is, there's no political systems over here. What happens when the ministers and all these officials are being selected on bias basis by the king? What happens? There is no chance that these people will be competent enough. They are not competent. So what happens? The political systems and the schemes and everything, all the executive and legislative actions done by them wouldn't be of proper use to these people. So yes, so that's the problem over here. And the royal government was corrupt and inefficient. Yes, it's inefficient. It's already been established. What happens? For example, I am a king, and I feel that okay, my sister and brother also have to be, given some specific positions in the monarchical system. So what I do, I make my sister, who's totally dumb and stupid, to be financial minister, and I make my brother, who's not very good, to be army officials. So when what happens when you appoint a very incompetent person for it? So that's the problem that happened over here, and yes, and it was corrupt. Corrupt is the reason why, since they don't have the ethics. Why do you say that these IAS officers are highly efficient? The reason is because of the education and the knowledge that they have. They also have ethics integrity paper separate for civil services. So that's the reason why they are very, very good at what they're doing. So when and they deserve it. Okay, you study so well and you go through lots of rigorous training and then you become an IAS officer. What happens when you just attend pass and it's being offered to you, a position is being offered to you? What happened? You wouldn't value it and you become more corrupt. So that happened over here. And censorship of speech and press. So even if the people have a problem, and even if they're voicing out against it, these people are suppressed by the censorship board and control. And whoever go against it, they were imprisoned without any charge, bail, or trial. That is, without any, they can't even ask why I'm arrested. Without any asking or without any question raised, they will be arrested and put in jail. And people denied a voice in government. Yes, this is the utmost important. These people are going through the utmost bankruptcy during the Louis XVI period. That is, okay, I'll talk about it. Yes, that's over here. That is, we have three estates here in France. First estate, good evening, good evening. Good evening, all. Good evening, Raj Kapoor. Good evening, Sonu. Uh, yeah, the problem is that here in France, there are three estates. For example, here in India, we had four class system. That is, what is that? Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaisas, and Shudras. Same, something more similar here. What that was first estate, second estate, and third estate. So there's only three categories. So first estates were people of all these priests, clergy people, all these people related to the religious factors. And second estate were these nobles. That is all these, for example, the zamindars and landlords over here, right? Somewhat similar to that. All these, high class, rich people, nobilities. Third class or the third estate were all these common people, these, normal citizens and peasants. And the problem was that uh, first and second estate were considered of the privileged class. Why? Because of lots of privileges being bestowed upon the first and second class. And we all know that every state, they need revenue for themselves. And over here, these first two classes were exempted from the taxes. They were not charged any tax, and only these peasants had to pay tax for them. So it is totally unfair because they are already rich and they are not being taxed. And these poor people, peasants, they hardly, garner much for themselves, and even from that, they have to pay up to the government. And it's written over here that own most of the land and collected special feudal taxes from the peasants. That is, these peasants, okay? And both estates were exempted from most taxes themselves and held best positions in government and in the military. That is, even if you are wise and have knowledge, it wouldn't matter because you have to be either be born as a clergyman or as into a noble family, and only then you will have upper, positions, or you will go up the ladder and receive special treatment in the eyes of law. So this was an issue, and yes, these are the third estates. These people were the majority of the people, that is 97% of the populations were there, and they were highly and heavily imposed of the tax. They were forced to do military services, for example, when there is war. And when I'm talking of war, it was during those period when America was fighting against Britain for the war. That is, if you remember or if you know of this concept that Americans were finally like before initial stage, it was inhabited by all these red Indians. But these Britishers came there and they suppressed all these red Indians, and that's how all these white American people came there. Okay, so that was the problem. So since they are Britishers, they were constantly paying up tax to their homeland, which is Britain, and even after many years, they were still paying up taxes. So they started saying, okay, we need freedom from you, Britain, because we don't want that. We don't want you. We are capable of ourselves. We have settled over here. We are not coming back. So just consider us a new nation. So for those reasons, America was fighting a war against Britain, and it's actually a very good thing, whatever that they're doing. But here, what happened is that our Louis XVI, see this guy, a total loser that we can talk about. Our nation, that is France, was already in a verge of bankruptcy. It was totally of ruined. And when America was fighting a war against London, Britain, this Louis XVI assisted in the war. When he himself doesn't have money to eat, he was giving help to some other nation. And for those reasons, the nation went total bankruptcy. And these poor peasants were forced to be recruited into the military. And one of the most ironical statement would be that these American fought war against these Britain with a slogan saying that no taxes, no representations. They're saying that we don't want to pay tax. And these common people of France were saying that you are fighting against someone for not paying tax, but you want us to pay tax for you. And with the military and with the war and all, the peasants were even more imposed with high charges of tax. So these were of more problem to these peasants. And yes, ultimately, the nation went complete bankrupt. No a single piece of price here to pay. So yes, and these peasants were forced to do military services. Peasants could not hunt or fish on nobles' estates. That is, here we all know that only 3% of these people, that is all these noble classes and clergymen, were only comprising of 3% of the total populations. But despite of their population size, they had the largest number of land, and everything was under their custody. So these people, they are dependent totally upon the natural resources like farming, agriculture, and fishing and all. So here it's saying that they cannot hunt or fish a noble's estate, even if in abandoned. For example, one rich zamindar will be he will be staying in a very large estate and all. But despite the fact that he will be also having faraway places with lots of, 50 acres of land. And just because it's abandoned, it doesn't mean that these poor people could go there and fish or collect food for themselves. They can't do that because they are the poor people, and peasants had to pay taxes to their lord, the king, and the church. And church is a different concept. I cannot say it was a religious form. It was more of overpowering. And these peasants have to pay price. That is same here zamindar system, like how these poor peasants pay up to zamindars also. Same over here. These peasants have to pay taxes to their landlords, to the king, and also to the church. It's in church there is actually a small clause written that in the clause, it's just in the Bible, a small clause. Okay, it's written that the more wealth you have, try to give donations. So it's just a small clause, but these clergymen, these priests, totally manipulated the statement, totally made use of, took advantage of it, and they saying that you have to pay certain amount of money to the church, irrespective of what your money is, what your savings is, you have to pay to the church. So this was again a problem. So they have to pay for 3 people, and peasants has to use the lord's mill, oven, wine press, and pay for them. That is we all know that. For example, these people were poor people, and they, for them, they, without a tractor, how can they collect harvest? So if they use a harvest, they have to pay the rent for all these. They have to give the tax for the land and also rent for all these whatever that they're using. And peasants made up of 90% of the populations, and it doesn't matter what these are. That is, peasants was 90, but the other minor people, that is cooks and other lower class people, the fishermen and all these bakers, they consisted of feudal. Means feudal is like an aristocratic person. Okay, Where did you see the feudal? Feudal is actually an aristocratic person, for example, like a zamindar, and he owns a property and he owns everything. All right. So yes, and the other causes we were discussing right now of the political causes. Now is the economic and other cause of French revolutions. Third estate was overburdened with taxes and land tax, forced to pay for road and bridges constructions and tithes. That is payment to the churches. This was initially started off as a donation, but then it turned out to be a compulsory form. And other causes inspired by English Civil War and American Revolution. That is, the American Revolution is a war against Britain, that we don't have to pay the tax for all. So this also inspired them. But I think the first revolution ever, what happened there in Britain, Britain and America, was more or less like a war rather than a revolution. But over here, these common people's uprisal, so that becomes a revolution. And this is King Louis XVI, the most infamous person, and he was totally incompetent. And he had, his palace. Palace name is Palace of Versailles. These people were, the palace was highly. It was very expensive to live in the palace. That is, he would have loads of officials appointed. One official buttoning up his shirt, and one official for tying his shoelace, and one official for combing his hair. And he would pay plenty for all these people. And these people consist of these noble class or the feudal class people. Okay, and he has to maintain lots of it. And his expenditure was so much, and moreover, he assisted these Americans for the for the war, and he was incompetent and unpopular leader. He cared little for the cared less for the common people. That is, totally didn't care what these people wanted. And Louis XVI brought the French finance to bankruptcy. Yes, maintained a lavish palace in Versailles, that we all know his lifestyle, especially not him, his wife. His wife, Maria Antoinette. She was, she used to spend so much. She used to spend 1,000,000,000 in a day. Whatever she's wearing now, she wouldn't wear tomorrow. And these people were having lavish lifestyles. So the whatever revenue being collected, they weren't able to at least suffice for themselves. And the other one is that refused to tax the privileged classes. His finance minister, when the nation was in the verge of bankruptcy, his finance minister, sort of like advised him, why don't we stop collecting taxes from these peasants? He's like, no. And he was like, okay, fine. We'll do one thing. We'll start collecting taxes from these first two classes, that is, these noble and the clergymen. And you know what he did? He totally, fired his finance minister. And yes, Maria Antoinette. She is the wife of Louis XVI, and she is an Austrian. She is a princess, that is the daughter of the king of Austria. So just imagine, these people were living in the luxurious, most king-size life, and from one palace to the other palace. That was her life, and she doesn't even know the common people's worries and all these problems that these people had. I'm so sorry. I'm just trying to make this a bit more bigger. Okay. She was not French, but a Habsburg from Austria. She was snobbish and loved to live extravagantly. Snobbish, and the reason why we say is that that is when these peasants were starving, when they didn't have food for themselves, they went and approached the queen saying that, Queen, we are hungry, our children haven't eaten any food for a few days, so what do we do? And we don't have a single bread to feed our children. And you know what our queen said? She said, if you don't have a bread to eat, why don't you just eat a cake? So this was more or less like an offensive statement to all these people. And the only thing that she cared for herself was her beauty, her appearances, her her clothes, her well-being, and all. And it's just a small account on her. She married at the age of 14, and when she married 15-year-old future king of Louis XVI, and it took 7 years for the future king, and that is we don't know why they both lived separately for 7 years. And just hours after the first met, young teenagers were escorted to the bridal chamber on the wedding night. And yes, so this is why I don't know why it's being like that. Probably they had other issues, and it's said to be that she had certain problems with these people. And yeah, so it's more of reasons about her. So this is the royal family. This is Maria Antoinette, this is Louis XVI, and they two kids. She also have one more child. And yes, so the problem was that, okay, The problem was that when they were in total bankruptcy, they first approached the queen, and that's what the queen said: if you don't have bread to eat, why don't you eat the cake? So this totally baffled all these people. And what they did is that they, made estate general. Estate general is a form of like an organization, and they said, okay, we'll do something. We'll go and consult the king. So that is why they started an estate general, and the king also said, okay, I'm inviting all these people to come to my palace of Versailles. We'll have a meeting, we'll discuss, and we'll talk. So, just imagine a president calling us, all these people, to his place and, asking us for the opinions. So that's how excited all these common people were. They're totally excited when the king called them in the palace. So they marched to the palace of Versailles, but the problem was that the king got scared. Okay, he got cold feet. That is what's initially started off with just 5 people. Each time they walk, many people start coming joining them. So by the time they reached the palace, it was already beyond the numbers of thousands. And when the king saw it, he got scared and just closed the door. But in spite of that, still the people waited for the king. The king was like, okay, fine, we'll still wait for them. And while they were waiting for the king in the tennis court, they made a certain agreement that, okay, we'll make few elect certain people among ourselves so that it will be much easier. But the problem, what happened over here is that, that is this Louis XVI, he sent an army, and when these people was like, how can he send an army? He was the one who asked us to come here to make a general estate and we'll have a talk. And also, why all these things are happening? And the other problem was that vote system. That is, third estate demanded equality in estate general. That is, they said that we want each vote, like the universal adult franchise and all. And Louis XVI totally went against it. Yes, obviously, why he wouldn't favor the lower section, which is the third estate. He always were for the first and second estate. And this reason why, when they started seeing that all these army marching forward, they got so angry that they stormed the Bastille. Bastille is a fort over here, okay? And the storming of Bastille happened in July 14th, 1789. And this started off the revolutions of France. So, what is the reason why they stormed the Bastille is, one reason is that all the weapons and ammunitions are here, and the other reason is that to release the political prisoners. The prisoners are being enclosed over here. For those reasons, they attacked here and they released all the political prisoners, and they got all the ammunitions and warfare, everything. And even the army went with these people. The army also were fed up with all these nonsense done by the king. So he also went along with the people, common people. Bastille is a hated prison in Paris where people were held without charge. Like we said, that these people will be... Is it here that I saw? Yeah, without charge, bail or trial, without even asking, without a single question, they will be taken into the custody. That whoever is going against the king, whoever raises the voice, they will be taken care of and put under the prison. So they attacked that, and they attacked nobles' castles as well, and disorder erupted, and this started off with the revolutions of France. And this is the French Revolution. So these are the map, and and the National Assembly was formed. As soon as the people broke out, they said, okay, we are going to make a National Assembly, and then they later made okay, you all think that whatever they did was a good thing, everything happened, and everything cumulated to be a very happy ending, but no, it turned out to be even more dreadful and sort of like a nightmare. I'll get into the point now. That is, they started off with the National Assembly. National Assembly is a form of, like, for example, here in India, we had Indian National Congress when everything was in total chaos. So similar over here, a political party was organized, that is the National Assembly. And here, what the steps that they took over here is that abolish special privileges of the privileged classes. That is, no more feudal payment by peasants, no more payments to church, no more tax exemptions to privileged classes, no more class distinctions. These peasants shouldn't have to pay for the landlords and for the church, but they still have to pay for the king. That is, the political order and the social system had to be maintained. Sorry. So for those reasons, still they have to, pay taxes. And also these privileged people should now start giving tax to the government. And then no more class distinctions. Everyone will be considered equal. It's not like one peasant's having just half vote and one privileged caste having one vote. It's nothing like that. Everyone getting an equal treatment. And second thing is that National Assembly's financial measures. The first one is that first financial measure that they undertook was that lands of the nobility and church were confiscated and sold at low prices to the peasants. Peasants are actually these National Assembly. Whoever revolted were these peasants and the common people. So they're saying that okay, now we are a political organization, we are the political party. So what we're going to do, we're going to grab the land from all these noble and the church people. We're going to sell at a very low cost to these poor peasants. That is to us also. And declarations of rights, that is the main. We all know we have right to equality, fraternity, and liberty. So where do you think these three rights evolved from? Okay, it came from the France, that is equality, liberty, and all these. The reason is that these people made a declaration that all men are same. The rights of men was properly laid down, and that is what happened over here. Is that all men are born free and equal. All citizens are entitled to a voice in making the nation's law. Freedom from unlawful arrest, freedom of speech, press, and religion. This initiated. Until then, they didn't understanding the concept of what freedom was all about. Liberalism was all about. So all these liberty, equality, and fraternity started off from here. And French constitution was made in 1799. That is, they established limitations to the monarchical power. They still have the monarchy. Okay, for example, here in president, our president, he is the nominal head. So whatever is the decisions made by the prime minister, the president gives a sign. He gives the assent. So here the monarchical power is more or less like a rubber stamp. Whatever these assembly, that is the National Assembly formulates, this rubber stamp or the monarchical or the Louis XVI has to just only sign in it. And legislative assembly assembled, assembly members elected by tax-paying citizens. Everyone, that is all now, every citizen, every single person is tax-paying citizen. So all have the right to choose. And the demise of Louis XVI and old regime, you know, but what happened over here is that one twist or turn of events happened over here. That is when National Assembly, everything they formulated, everything was laid down, but it couldn't be that is executed. The reason is that their rubber stamp, the monarchical power, which is Louis XVI, he just ran away. He ran away with his wife. He thought that his wife house is in Austria, so they'll take care of us. So they thought if they get it to the border, they could just escape themselves to Austria and have a good life. But they were caught, and yes, they were, guillotined. So I suppose if you have seen at least one picture or at least a video or at least something about guillotine, that is a blade will cut off the head. It will just chop off the head, and it's considered to be most human way possible to kill someone. And since why? Because Louis XVI, he totally resented giving up of his power. That is all these people making decisions for himself that he didn't like, and conspired with foreign monarchies against revolution. That is Austria. And other reason why Austria helped France was that Austria was fearing for itself that if these people of France are revolting against the king, there are chances that my people will also start revolting against me. So these people have to be suppressed. For those reasons, Austria started assisting them, and Louis XVI and Maria Antoinette attempted to flee France but captured. Like they tried to flee and get to Austria, but they were captured because their face is being known to everyone, and they were tried for treason and sentenced by guillotine, and its method of beheading the head. So yes, so these might seem gory to all. And then started the reign of terror. That is, like we all know, this National Assembly couldn't be properly formed. Why? Because the rubber stand wasn't there. And then a next group of people called Jacobians. They came, said, they said, okay, we are taking over from now. We know what to do. We'll be doing all the right for these people. Anyone who goes against it will be executed. And yes, after here, the foreign monarchs shocked by Louis XVI execution, and Prussia and Austria feared the revolutionary spirit would spread to the countries. These Prussia and Prussia is an old name for German, and these people fear that these people are revolting against them. So this might even inspire our people to go against us, and arrested all these people suspected for treason, and eventually Jacobians, like I said, the Jacobians as a group came into being, and they were executing people. If they don't like someone, they'll execute. If they like someone, they'll execute. It's like executing everyone, each and every single one, for one small mistake. And Jacobean leadership arrested, executed by guillotine. Yes, Robespierre. He is actually a famous leader of Jacobeans. He was responsible for the Reign of Terror. Reign of Terror. Why these people, the common people, were feeling scared. Okay, we tried to get rid of, a bad person, and we ended ourselves with the worst person that we could ever have. And see, this is the death counts during these Jacobeans. So there was just guillotining people, and they were taking overthrown also. And foreign monarchs were shocked by Louis XVI. Yes, and reforms in France following the Reign of Terror. What happened during those period during the Reign of Terror when the Jacobeans and headed by Robespierre was here was that abolishment of imprisonment for debt. That is, suppose you don't have money to pay up, you wouldn't be imprisoned. You will not be imprisoned. You wouldn't be taken to jail. Abolish slavery in French colonies. Yes, this is the most important. Okay, it will be coming for your objective type question. Which was the state or which was the nation which first abolished slavery? It is France, and adopted the metric system, that's proper ones, measurements and all. Created a national system for education. Till then, whatever they were learning were more of theological prospects, that about the king, the good things about the king, and what a clergyman, what these people are doing, and what are these priests and all these high class societies. And yes, and primogeniture, that is the practice of elder son's right to inherit all properties. This was totally removed. It doesn't matter that if you just the first son, you will be only getting the property. So that was totally abolished. Any children, all the children will be having all the property of equal rights. So I think we should just stop here with the Reign of Terror, because next session is about Napoleon Bonaparte, and that requires lots of attention. It has to be discussed in detail. So I think we'll just stop the class till here. It was just a small class about what initiated the French Revolutions and the events that followed in French Revolution. And I really hope that I was able to convey myself to all. If there's something else, do let me know. So that's it, right? All right. So I think that's it for today's class. So we should just end our session. So thank you all so much for joining here. Don't forget to come to tomorrow's class as well. Tomorrow's class is also at 8:30. We will be discussing more about this one. That is Napoleon Bonaparte, how he came and saved France from all these terror group and people, and how he also became the next terror, and how eventually he fell and had his own failure. So that's it all. We'll see you tomorrow again at 8:30. So thank you so much.